Good morning and welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at ahaggerty10 on the Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by the Wanderer as he returns from holiday, Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay. How are you doing, sir? Good holiday?
Yeah, it was good fun. You could probably see the colour on my face. I've had a pretty good time away. I like how you were sort of quoting Dion, the Wanderer, one of those songs from the
Indeed.
50s, I think. Yeah, it certainly was. It was good to have a holiday, especially during the international break where not really too much is going on. I know there was still things going on regarding Celtic, but good to get away for a bit. But I'm glad to be back, glad to be talking about Celtic, and glad to be on the briefing with you.
Nice one. Thank you very much, sir. Now, guys, as you can see from the top of the strapline there at the top of your picture, we have a new sponsor, and it's MPH Group, and they do plumbing, heating, kitchens and bathrooms, as you can see from the advert there at the top. But the morning briefing is brought to you by MPH Group, and they're Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialist covering all of mainland Scotland, and every service you offer automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway, and you could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. So if you log on, the description is in all the social media links are in the description of the video. So if you want to have a look and see what MPH Group do, you can see it there, and all the links and all the phone numbers are there for you to have a look at them. So we thank MPH Group for their sponsorship. So thanks very much, and as I say, we welcome young Ryan back onto the pod, and you will also wonder why today I have a tie on, and I will explain why I have a tie on. This is a Manchester United club tie. You can see the badge there, and I'll tell you a wee story why I've got the tie on. There was a guy who worked on the Daily Record beside us, a guy called Chris Roberts, or Robbo as he was affectionately known, and he was just 39 years of age, and he died of illness 9 years ago. Excuse me, this weekend. He was a great sports journalist, he was a great colleague, but he was also a wonderful friend, and we all still miss him to this day. My thoughts are with his partner Fee and his father Tony and the rest of the Roberts family. And as you can see from the tie, he was a Manchester United fanatic, and he travelled everywhere with his old man Tony to see his beloved United. Excuse me. All the writers in the sports desk at the Record honoured him the day he was buried by wearing the Manchester United club tie to his funeral, and it was a tradition that we wore the tie to work on his anniversary, and his anniversary was this weekend, and we all still try and uphold that tradition. So that explains why I'm wearing the tie today, guys. And Chris was a football writer, but he was also a boxing writer for the Daily Record. And another former sports writing colleague and good friend of his, Craig Swan, said this: there was not one single individual who featured in his articles who had more courage and fighting spirit than the man himself. I think that's quite apt. And what was also apt is that, excuse me, the gymnasium in the Daily Record building was renamed Robbo's Gym in his honour. So I just wanted to take time to dedicate the Celtic Way morning briefing today to the wee man, or the wee mank, as he was known. And wherever you are, Chris, I hope there's a giant screen and George Best and Eric Cantona goals are playing all out bud, and the Stone Roses and the Manic Street Preachers are on shuffle, my friend. You may be gone, but you're not forgotten, Chris. Certainly not. Top man. Cheers. Sorry, guys, didn't want to start a Monday on a sombre note, but it's important to me that we do these things. And he was a valuable friend and a great journalist as well, and a great colleague. So cheers for letting me do that. Appreciate that. Now, Ryan, Celtic, the international weekend. Matt O'Reilly could make his debut for Denmark. Scotland have qualified for the Euros. And Liam Scales made his debut for the Republic of Ireland. Where do you want to start?
I think we should start with the second one. I think I probably should have made that the headline looking back on it, since it was such a momentous occasion last night. I'm not gonna buy into any of some of the tweets that were going about, people saying they wanted such and such to happen with regard to the results. As long as Scotland got through to a national tournament, I didn't really care how they got through, as long as that was confirmed, signed, sealed, and delivered. All those flights were fully booked to Germany. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted with Scotland. I know they didn't do it through their own means on the night. It was Spain that got the job done. They've probably topped the group now when you look at the way the rest of the fixtures are going to go, which is what you would have expected at the start of the group. But, for Greg Taylor, for Callum McGregor especially, these guys are going to ply their trade at another international tournament. It's absolutely brilliant for the whole country. Steve Clarke's done an amazing job as the Scotland manager, and it's great exposure for the players, the Scottish players that play for Celtic. And they'll be pushing even harder to try and get into that squad in the summer. So it can only bode well for Celtic, both in the short, in the short, medium, and long term of the club, because they've got something to play for at the end of the season. Not even just trophies and titles, but that chance of going away with your country, it's massive as well.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland did the damage in the first 5 games, really, Ryan, by winning all 5. Very unlucky against Spain. You will have seen that, and that ridiculous decision to chalk off that Scott McTominay goal. But
yeah, absolutely.
we'll not go there. We'll not go there. All's well that ends well, and they qualified, and thankfully that didn't come back to bite them or haunt them. But yeah, I think you have to say well done to Steve Clarke and the boys for what they've achieved. And Callum McGregor's been a massive, massive part of that, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's been one of the best players, to be honest. I mean, it's all happened through that midfield, especially. You look at the goals that Scott McTominay's scored, John McGinn's performances in the middle, but I think McGregor's absolutely pivotal to everything that Scotland do. Similar to everything that Celtic do under Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou before him. He's a sort of metronome that keeps everybody ticking in the middle of the park. He'll allow for other players to have good games because of his steady performances. I don't think Scott McTominay could have those good performances without, or as good performances without McGregor beside him on the park. I think the fact that Steve Clarke picks him basically every single game, he hardly gets a rest, shows how important he is to the team and the immediate and long-term success. He's going to be a key player in the coming years. He already has been the past 4, 5, 6 years. He's been pretty much a mainstay, whoever's been in charge. So it's great to see him on the international stage doing well as getting back into form for Celtic, because he's such an important player for both international and club side. So I'm delighted to see him get his flowers and do well, and hopefully can get some more good performances in Germany next year.
Good to see. I mean, that's as you see, that's a great incentive for both Callum McGregor and Greg Taylor and any other Celtic players who are hopeful of gate crashing that Scotland squad for the end of the season and try and book your seat on that plane to Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was trying to think of other players that could maybe force their way into proceedings. It's terrible to say, but I don't think David Turnbull's been further from a Scotland squad at the moment, unfortunately. Not all down to him. I think it's a very settled midfield as well. You know roughly who is going to get called up. Maybe there's 1 or 2 names that can maybe go in and out. When it comes to your Stuart Armstrongs, your Kenny McLeans, they can come out, others can come in. But at the moment, it looks like a very settled midfield, and unfortunately, David Turnbull's just at that stage where he's not really getting picked for Celtic and he's not getting picked for Scotland either. So that might be something he needs to look at in the summer. But in terms of the players that do look as if they'll have a good chance of going, definitely Callum McGregor. With Kieran Tierney's injury, you hope he's fit and ready for I know he's not a Celtic player anymore, but he's one of Scotland's best players. You're hoping he's fit and available and ready. Robertson as well. I know he came off injured in the game against Spain. But Greg Taylor's definitely a capable deputy in those positions. So if there's any doubt about those players going into the summer, then I'm sure he can take their place and do an admirable job. But any other players that want to try and make a late run at the Scotland squad, there's no bigger incentive than the fact that there's a international tournament in the summer in Germany as well. It's definitely a very appetising sort of venue. All the venues are going to be absolutely incredible. Even the newer stadiums as well. I think the newest stadium out of all the ones quoted as the Leipzig Stadium, one that Celtic have played at quite a lot in the past few years. So it's a very, very high quality of ground that they'll be going to, a high quality country in terms of their footballing knowledge and their footballing hosting abilities. So yeah, definitely a lot of positives for Celtic's Scottish contingent and any other players that are yet to qualify. If they can make their way into the team, then they can hopefully do a good job in terms of boosting their name and boosting the club in the process.
it's just wonderful that Scotland are there, isn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to be used to, because it's not something that I've been used to growing up whatsoever. It's been that glorious failure. Watching them getting put out by teams. Even recently, I mean, I think that result against Ukraine was an absolute shocker as well. Last year or the year before. When Scotland rather were riding the crest of a wave, and then it all came crashing down against Ukraine. But yeah, two tournaments out the last three is an absolutely incredible tally, especially for Scotland, when you don't really expect them to be making international tournaments. But at the same time, they probably should be, with the amount of Premier League players they've got in and around the team now, the amount of players they've got playing for Celtic, other teams as well. Yeah, it's a high quality team. I don't think it's been as good in a long time, and yeah, they absolutely deserve their place. I think they were the third team to have qualified. After Turkey and Spain. Spain qualified at the same time, but it looks as if they'll be getting that first spot. So yeah, it's good to be one of the top three teams already qualified for the tournament, and it means that you can watch the game tomorrow night without any pressure, knowing that Scotland have a major tournament to go into in the summer.
Now, other Celts who got international recognition at the weekend, and one of them was Liam Scales, who, big up to Liam Scales, who made his international debut against Greece. Sadly, the Republic of Ireland lost 2-0, but hey, what a journey Liam Scales has been on. And if you want to read about that journey, then there's a piece today on the website from my good self, and I spoke to 3 of his former managers. There's a link in the description there. You can have a read at that. I enjoyed writing it, Ryan. It's give you the kind of a wonderful insight into Liam Scales, how he came from playing for Arklow in Ireland and Wicklow in Ireland, and graduated through the university scholarship scheme with UCD onto Shamrock Rovers, and then on loan with and then signing for Celtic, and then going on loan with Aberdeen. And I spoke to 3 of his former managers: manager at Arklow, Larry Mahoney, Stephen Bradley, manager at Shamrock Rovers, and Jim Goodwin, he's manager at Aberdeen. So if you want to read that, it's a long read, guys, but it's well worth it.
It's really, really worth it. It is a brilliant article. I read it this morning.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very kind. But yeah, you want to get your teeth into that, it's on the website there, guys, and you can have a look at it. It's in the comment section there, the links to it. So have a look at that. But brilliant for Liam Scales, Ryan. I use the word Cinderella story because that's what it is, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about taking your opportunity when it comes to you. An opportunity that maybe he didn't expect coming to him so quickly. Yeah. He really had to bide his time. I say it came to him quickly. It's probably taken him about 2-3 years before that running the team. I know I was speaking to him after the game against Motherwell. He was saying he hadn't had that run in the team that he'd wanted to showcase his abilities. He got that maybe through unfortunate means, but the only means that he was going to get a run in the team was down to an injury crisis. Fortunately for him, and unfortunately for the rest of the players that were usually in the first team, they were out of the team and he was in. He was thrust into proceedings. And at the time, I know there was a few people that were saying he was going to do a good job, but there was a lot of detractors as well. I was probably one of them as well, that was a bit unsure as to how he was going to do in the first team. I know he had quite a good loan spell at Aberdeen, but it's different playing for Aberdeen and playing for Celtic, where you're expected to win basically every game at Celtic and play a passing style out from the back now, especially under Brendan Rodgers. He would have had that previously under Ange Postecoglou, but he was seen more as a left back by the predecessor. So yeah, the fact that he's came into the team and really not looked out of place whatsoever, and been arguably the standout or one of the standout players over the last 6-7 weeks, has been a credit to himself and a credit to his professionalism. He's not there. He's not there because he's like a competition winner or anything like that. He truly deserves to be in that position just now. And I don't think there's anybody that would grudge him the starting place when the teams go back from international break on Sunday. I think he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet for Tynecastle when it comes to the weekend. He absolutely deserves his opportunity. He deserves to keep it going unless something happens. And right now, I think he's Carter Vickers' main partner at centre back, and well deserved as well.
I think we were writing that. I think it was Jim Goodwin that said it in the piece that the highest compliment you can pay Liam Scales is he's now seen as the partner to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Whereas at the start of the season, you would never have predicted that. But he's now gone and made his debut for the Republic of Ireland. That's his lifelong ambition, and it's wonderful to see that. It's absolutely wonderful. And as I say now, the compliment is I can hear you talk. The compliment is that he's the guy who's going to stand alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers, one a natural right-sided centre back and the other a natural left-sided centre back. So I mean that it's just amazing how far he's come in such a short space of time.
Yeah, and totally deserved as well. He's been absolutely incredible since coming into that team. He's not looked out of place. He's well worthy of his Ireland call up and start as well in that game against Greece. There was a couple of familiar faces in that team as well. Obviously coming up against Giacomakis, who scored for Greece. He hasn't stopped scoring since he left Celtic. It would seem. I know he's not been scoring as many for Greece, but he seems to be doing well for his national team as well. And they're sitting pretty. I think they were in second place in their group as well. So it's definitely been a surprise. And there's definitely been a couple of surprise teams. Scotland's definitely one of them in these group stages or these qualifying stages. So all the best to them. But from what I was reading, I didn't manage to catch the Ireland game. But Liam Scales was one of the standouts in a really, really poor Ireland performance. I think they'll probably change their manager soon enough as well. With the way things are going, their record over the past 3-4 years has been pretty dismal, so they'll be looking for a change. So I think it'll be up to Scales again to impress a new manager by the time that new manager comes through the door. Who that'll be, we don't know, but Liam Scales has made that initial breakthrough. I know he got called up before and never made an appearance, but I'm so delighted for him that he's made his debut for Arsenal, for Ireland, and hopefully can push on from there and be a mainstay for Ireland. Well deserved from a real hard worker and a real grafter as well. That's had to fight for every opportunity that he's had, but he's taken it with both hands, and I'm just glad to see him succeeding just now.
Excellent. Got a few comments coming in about Liam Scales. So first up, Seamus Gallagher. Morning, Seamus. Keep up the great job you're doing, Liam Scales, and keep the Irish eyes smiling. Pete McGee. Morning, Pete. How you doing? He never rated Scales, but he now takes his hat off to the boy. He's grasped his opportunity with both hands or feet, as he's jokingly saying, and deserves his place at the minute. Whether he keeps it remains to be seen. And Seamus comes in again and says it's some header from Georgios Giacomakis, and Edward Wyavos saying everyone loves a battler. And I echo what you were saying there. He has thought he's had a circuitous route into professional football, Liam Scales, but he has made it. He has made it big time, and hopefully he can produce or keep producing and be the player that everybody has seen in him when he was starting out. The space he comes in, Scales, a quiet man going well. Yeah, he's just an unassuming guy as well. As I made the point before, it's guys like that you want to see do really, really well and succeed in life and succeed in football, and he's certainly on his way to succeeding greatly, Ryan. He's playing the Champions League with Celtic. He's made his international debut, and life's going well for Liam Scales at the minute, and I don't think anybody who knows him grudges him it.
No, he seems like a very popular guy as well off the pitch, and you get that from speaking to his teammates, but also as you were speaking to people that knew him best, his former coaches. You talk about Jim Goodwin as well. He was in that article as well. No one has a negative word to say about Liam Scales. He's definitely this grafter that's had to work for every opportunity that's been given to him. No opportunities have been given to him. He's had to take them with both hands and make the most of them when they have come along. This one at Celtic being probably the biggest. Players could be quite daunted by that. The fact that they've been thrust in, maybe out of the cold from proceedings. There's big characters there. He had to compete with Starfelt and Carter-Vickers originally. Starfelt's left, but Nawrovski's came in. Lagerbielke's came in, who's also an international. It was good to see him score his first international goal last week. Hopefully he can push on from there and challenge Scales for that spot in the team,
Yep.
because competition is always good. We talk about Nawrocki as well. He'll be close to joining the team again. I know his prognosis or his estimated return was around about October. So you're hoping he's finalising his rehab and he can get back on the pitch and he can be another player for Scales to battle out with. Because as much as you're enjoying Scales being in the first team, you don't want him to be too comfortable. You don't want it from one extreme to the next. You want him to be pushed. And Cameron Carter-Vickers as well. You want to be in that crazy situation where Cameron Carter-Vickers' position's being questioned because there's these new young upstarts coming into the team, such as Lagerbielke and Nawrocki. 2 young players. I think it's very, very important not to write off either of them. I think a few people online especially have wrote off Lagerbielke already. He's not the finished article, but I think he'll be a really good player. You heard Brendan Rodgers talking about him a couple of months ago, saying he's looking forward to seeing his development in the Celtic side, and he's going to be a really exciting defender in the coming years. I'll take Brendan Rodgers' word for it. He'll know a good defender when he sees one, and you're hoping that he can improve and get back into the team, because he wasn't quoted in that last game against Kilmarnock, so you're hoping that was maybe just a knock and nothing tactical. It probably was tactical looking back on it, the fact that he was playing for Sweden a week later, but that's up to him to get back into the team and make that position his own. But yeah, all credit to Liam Scales, totally deserves his opportunity. Nobody has a bad word to say about him at this point in time, and long may that continue, because only as long as the results are good for Celtic, then and as long as the best players in that position at that time are playing for Celtic and they're getting the results, then I have absolutely no complaints on who's starting at the back for Celtic. As long as the results are there, then that's the main thing.
Now, still getting more comments. Peter King coming in and saying, don't know if Scales will keep his place once everyone is fit. The manager will decide that, won't he, Peter? And Brown Warrior coming in and saying players like Scales don't come to a club like Celtic if there isn't a player in them. There's far too many online Jock Steens writing guys like him off when it's obvious there's a player in there. He needed time. That's fair enough. But I think he's just riding the crest of a wave at the minute, Liam Scales, and long may that continue. And Pete McGee coming in and saying to Peter King, Brendan Rodgers will be deciding based on training performances. I guess I always say that the manager watches these guys in training so they can see and chart their development as they go. But you have to hand it to Liam Scales and pat him on the back and say, well done. But as you say, this is not a comfort zone that he's hit now. Don't think he's that kind of player. I think he'll keep raising it. Speaking to his former managers, they'll say just striving to get better all the time. So that's the kind of player you want. And also, I think he'll learn off Cameron Carter-Vickers if he is playing alongside him and deployed against him for any length of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing the two of them together and how they shape up. Now, Ryan, another one, and we've been clamouring for this for a long time, but it's finally happened. Our man, Matt O'Reilly, is in the full Danish squad and hopeful of making his debut for Denmark against San Marino. Can you see that happening? I most certainly can.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, because he totally deserves it, and it would be a great sort of early season climax to everything that he's been doing so far. I think he's been Celtic's standout player, along with Liam Scales and Kyogo. I would say those are the 3 outstanding performers so far this season for Celtic. But I think he's been on another level compared to the other 2. And that's no slight on Kyogo, because there's been some incredible goals that he's scored, and Liam Scales has done a very, very admirable job since coming in at the back. But Matt O'Reilly has been arguably Celtic's player of the season so far. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of everything that he brings to the team, both defensively and offensively, on the ball and off the ball. I think he's a perfect modern day midfielder, attacking midfielder. And I think he'll slot in very, very well to that Denmark team. Not to discredit the opposition too much, but that's a game that Matt O'Reilly will be desperate to get some minutes in, because he'll feel that he can do some damage, especially against San Marino. He'll be in a team full of good players. I'm not really sure exactly if Christian Eriksen is in that team just now. He might be out due to injury, but I know they've got I think it's Jonas Vind that plays in the attacking midfield position. But Matt O'Reilly's definitely fluid. He can play in a number of positions in the centre of midfield. You're hoping if he can get his opportunity, then he can take it and become a mainstay, because that can only mean good things for Celtic as well. Denmark are still trying to push for a qualification spot at next year's Euros. You're hoping that if Matt O'Reilly can do well for Denmark, then he can get on the plane for Germany. If Denmark qualify, you would expect them to, just given their quality in and around their team, both in defence and attack. Young player, 22 years old, totally deserving of this opportunity. You're hoping whether or not he starts or he comes on as a sub, he takes those minutes and in training as well, takes that opportunity and convinces the manager that, this shouldn't have been a late call-up, this should have been a call-up right from the start.
And if he plays, Ryan, he'll fancy his chances of scoring, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think goals are definitely something that he's improved this season. I mean, you look at the stats already. He's already eclipsed his goal total from last season, so it shows that he is working hard on that in the training ground. Either that, or he's playing with a bit of freedom. He's talked about how he feels mentally. He's in a good place under the new manager. He's been so vocal about Brendan Rodgers. Every single opportunity he's had to talk about Brendan Rodgers, he's definitely taken it with both hands. Yeah, I think he's just enjoying playing under this new manager. The manager's getting the best out of him, like he has done with other players in that position, like Maddison, like Coutinho. There's other examples there as well. If you go back further. Yeah, good players can work with good managers, and good managers can make good players into great players. I think Matt O'Reilly's well on his way to becoming a great player. There's a couple of things he needs to iron out in his game. Maybe taking more games by the scruff of the neck and dominating like the way Rio Hatate can do. But if he can get up to that level and do that, and if the two can interchange, if Hatate can do that and Matt O'Reilly can do that game after game, then Celtic will be in a good position, both in Europe and domestically, I would say.
Yep, without a doubt. And everybody knows my thoughts on Matt O'Reilly. He is a cracking footballer.
He's caviar, isn't he? He's a joy.
Now, Anthony Beattie coming in and saying Matt O'Reilly, Champions League player. Yeah, I think he's shown his quality this season, and Ryan's alluded to it many times that he's been the best Celtic player, probably the man of the match in every game he's played. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, bar one, I would say.
Yeah.
But and I'm not complaining, because apart from the game that Rio Hatate ran the show, but even then, I'm actually going to take that back, because there's some stats in the stats bomb piece that I did last week, which feels as if it was forever ago since I've been on holiday and came back. And that, Matt O'Reilly's his numbers were still very, very good, considering he played a bit part role. He still contributed more key passes than any other player. He had 7. I think the next biggest was 3 or 4. So it shows how good he is on that end in terms of making opportunities for players or starting attacks and making things happen. I think that's such a good element of his game. It's been an element of his game since he joined, but I'm glad that he's finishing off moves as well as starting them as well. He's a focal point to Celtic's attack and defence as well.
Rebel Double X coming in saying Matt O'Reilly will be with Celtic for another 18 months. He's in no rush to leave and he's loving his time at Celtic. He's hoping he stays for as long as he can. Brown Warrior, O'Reilly's only 21, plenty of time to grow into that type of player, he's saying. Ryan and Pete McGee and early. Matt O'Reilly is his bet for the Player of the Year already.
I think I said that after 3 games, honestly. If Pete's early, then I was extremely early.
Derek Smith coming in. Sometimes all he needs an opportunity, and Scales got one, and he hasn't let Celtic down. And how strong are Celtic in the centre back area right now? Yep, they're very strong. But yeah, in terms of Matt O'Reilly, I would just love to see him get that recognition, full cap like Scales did, and come back and just celebrate that by, fitting in seamlessly into club football. Celtic away at Tynecastle on Saturday. Can't come quick enough, Ryan. This couple of weeks has just felt like an eternity. Still going to feel that an eternity until Sunday. And but yeah, it's the days are going in slowly, Ryan, I think's the phrase, slowly till we get club football back. But at least Scotland's put a smile on my face. Guys like Matt O'Reilly and Liam Scales have put a smile on Celtic supporters' faces. Lots of interest in terms of the international break.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the international break is definitely an acquired taste. I know most people prefer their club football. Yes, there are those that prefer international football. I'm certainly not one of them. I definitely will support Scotland when they're on the TV and when they're doing well, especially when they're going to major tournaments. I'll support them regardless. But, you know, after tomorrow when Scotland play France, then it's back to the... I'm not going to say the real stuff because I don't want to do a disservice to Scotland, but back to the domestic matters and you know, I think the most important football is club football. You know, it's the one that goes every week. I'm looking forward to having Celtic back. It's felt like an absolute age since Celtic played against Kilmarnock. You know, thinking back on that, it feels like absolutely ages. You know, I know it's only been, what is it, 8-9 days since they've played, but it feels like an absolute eternity. You're hoping that the players that haven't played have used their time well on the training ground. Maybe they've managed to get away and then they've came back and managed to get things right on the training ground and making a push for the team when the internationals come back. I know that Rio Hatate came on against Canada and looked really, really good. There was a couple of really, really nice passes from Hatate, which shows that he's taken his form. He's good form from his domestic game against Kilmarnock into his international. I know Alistair Johnson maybe not so much. He made a mistake for one of Japan's goals, but you know what sort of player Johnson is. He's going to come back and he won't let that affect him. He'll be ready for that game come the weekend. But yeah, it's been a very, very long international break. I think it's helped the fact that Scotland have been on the cusp of qualifying, but once that game's over with regard to the friendly against France, and I think everybody will be having all eyes on Tynecastle at the weekend.
Yeah, Seamus Gallagher comes in and says hopefully all the players who still have games to play in the Euro qualifiers come back this week injury free. That's all you can hope for, isn't it? And Pete McGee saying to you, Ryan, he thinks he was the first to describe Matt O'Reilly as a Rolls Royce type of player. I'll leave that to you to battle out with Pete McGee.
I might have not said it online, but I think I said it after his debut, or especially against against Rangers, the 3-0 game. Remember that magical night a year ago? Over a year ago. He was one of the players that was maybe a bit quieter in the game, but for his first Celtic Rangers game, it looked as if he'd played 100 of them. You know, very, very comfortable on the ball, full of character. I know he's had his ups and downs, and he's talked about that in his that press conference. I remember especially I was at that press conference where he's talking about maybe struggling with the mental side off the pitch of playing for a big team like Celtic, but doing lots in terms of meditation, headspace, in order to get in a better place for playing for Celtic. You know, I think he epitomises all the good things in a modern footballer. You know, I think he uses social media correctly. He's very well spoken. He's articulate in his words. There's a reason why he gets put up for a lot of the press conferences, because you know he's a safe pair of hands or lungs, you would say. You know what's going to come out of his mouth isn't going to be anything controversial. You know, he's going to give good, insightful answers to the journalists, but he's never going to put the club in jeopardy or say anything out of line. So yeah, I think he's just a model professional both on and off the park, and he deserves all the credit that's coming his way, and I think there's plenty more to come throughout the season for him.
Brown Warrior comes in and says the biggest compliment you can pay to Scales is the fact that Starfelt isn't missed. I agree with that. And Thomas Gallagher comes in and says Matt O'Reilly, aka the Great Dane, truly deserves this call up, the biggest achievement of his career so far. And Pete McGee in feisty mood today. He was bigging up Matt O'Reilly after his first.
So was I. Sometimes you just know. I think sometimes you just know with players.
Exactly. When you know, you know. Don't you? So,
and I think as long as everybody's in the same boat, it doesn't matter what time you start sort of hyping up a player. Sometimes it takes a couple of games. Not everybody sees the same player when they watch them. You know, not every player immediately catches the eye to absolutely everyone. Maybe there's a certain moment that they do something. I think a lot of people have been the eye has been caught this season with the fact that he's now running games almost single-handedly. Maybe not to the same level as Hatate did last season or the season before, or maybe in that game against Kilmarnock, but he will get there. You know, if he can maintain his good levels and start running a couple more games, not just statistically, but in terms of the eye test on the pitch, then, you know, I think the sky's the limit for him. You know, for 22 years old, I think the potential he's got and the level that he can get to both at Celtic and beyond is absolutely incredible, and he totally deserves it. I think he'll keep on going, but at the moment he's really, really been Celtic's outstanding player.
Pete McGee, last word on this season. Let's just agree that he's right, Ryan. Shall we do that? We'll just agree that Pete McGee's right. He's always right. Always chiding us for tardiness as well. So yeah, a bit later today, Pete, but hey, there you go. But no, I think, I mean, as I say, I don't think any praise is too high for Matt O'Reilly. You know, he really is one of those players that, you know, you saw from very early on what he was capable of, and then you wanted to see how he would grow and he would develop. He did that under Ange, and now you realise that Brendan Rodgers can really get his claws into him and turn him into something special. And I think you're witnessing the start of something special in terms of Matt O'Reilly. Enjoy him while you can, while the Celtic supporters can, and just marvel at what he's going to produce, because it's going to get better, isn't it? Brown Warrior comes back in. Matt O'Reilly's proof that a real bargain still to be found in the lower leagues of the English game. Yeah, of course there is. But I think the fact that Matt O'Reilly's he's kind of bought into it from very early on, hasn't he? And as you say, that interview that he gave, it was quite an insightful interview that he gave about the mental side of playing for a club like Celtic. But he's embraced it, and he's now embracing the manager, and the manager has embraced him because he's a player that he really, really likes. And if he listens, he will learn, and he will like you. He will go places. So it's one of those, you just see that career trajectory heading to the sky, as you say.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that, not to mention him too much, but I'm very happy Ange Postecoglou went for James Maddison instead of Matt O'Reilly in the summer, because I think that could have been a very, very, or Rio Hatate too. You know, we seen Ange Postecoglou when he was at Celtic, going back to his former club and picking out some of the best talents from Yokohama F Marinos to join Celtic. So you're happy that didn't happen this summer, and that both players have signed new and extended deals. You know, that at least for the short and medium term, they're going to be at Celtic to further continue their development under arguably one of Celtic's best ever managers for developing young players and making them into better players, you know, both at Celtic and away from Celtic. You look at his track record at Liverpool, at Leicester, Swansea as well. You know, this guy Brendan Rodgers, he can really, really expand a player's potential. He can make a good player into a great player and make them ready for the challenges that await them as they progress in their career. I'm so glad that Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate are still at the club. You know, I maybe expected one out of the two of them to leave in the summer, I've got to be honest, because, you know, you enjoy these star players while they're there, and then you maybe think that there's going to be a team that come in and pry them away from the club and take them to maybe a better league with better wages. But you're glad to see them commit their medium term futures to the club, and they are only going to improve under this manager. So good luck to them while they do that.
Danny Boy comes into you, Matt's agent, Tony. You hear me speak very highly of Matt, have done ever since he came to the club. So I think
you and I would be very good for Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate's agencies.
Would be wonderful for it, to be fair to them. Yep, I agree with that. But sadly, I'm not. But there you go. But if it's a job that's on offer, I'll throw my hat into the ring, as they say, for that kind of gig. Yeah, there you go. Hazel Finn, careful boys, the testosterone is shown. Let's just agree O'Reilly's a player. I think we're agreed on that, Hazel. Cheers for that. Appreciate that. But yeah, and Big Dom comes in and says Brendan is a most superb player developer, which is worth its weight in gold. Spoke about that countless times, and I've mentioned the likes of Maddison and Suarez as examples of that. These are guys in the past who've said Brendan Rodgers developed them as footballers, so which is another reason why we were both delighted to see Brendan Rodgers be the manager at the football club. And that's what we talk about when we talk about an elite level manager. That's what he does. He makes players better. He helps them fulfill the potential that they have. And it's not just about results at the elite level. I'm talking about the whole package with Brendan Rodgers and, the unseen things that people just kind of take for granted. But that's why he's an elite level manager, Ryan. These players will vouch for it and they'll testify to it, won't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad I was listening to his. He was answering some of the fans' questions in that video on YouTube the other
Yeah.
day, and he was talking about how this is he sees this as his managerial prime that he's in right now, that this next 10 years or so, he says this is going to be the 10 years that define him as a manager. He's had a pretty good last 10 years, I would say. You look at the trophy haul that he got for Celtic and Leicester in particular, and some of his achievements for Liverpool as well. I know he didn't win any trophies, but his development for certain players there was definitely there for all to see. But it's good to know that in his prime, he is at Celtic, the club that he says he's supported all his life. He wanted to come back. He said that Celtic was the only club that he was willing to look past his break for, or break his break, rather, you could probably say. It was a very, very short break, that's for sure. But he said he was delighted to be back at the club. I think it all feels real now that Brendan Rodgers is back at the club. All these interviews that he's doing. I think in the past, maybe the last international break, just after Celtic beat Rangers at Ibrox, it still didn't really feel too real that Brendan Rodgers was back at the club. It was a bit of a shock, the way Ange Postecoglou left and Brendan Rodgers came back a couple of weeks later and sort of took that place that he left back in 2019. It didn't feel real for a couple of months. I think it feels real now. I think everybody's settled. Everybody knows that Brendan Rodgers is here. He looks settled. He looks delighted with the way things are going, and yeah, I think everybody knows where they are. Everyone knows that Brendan Rodgers is going to be the manager for the foreseeable long-term future, and yeah, you're just hoping that the results and the trophies follow him.
Correct, and lots of people coming and talking about Brendan. Brendan's a winner, says Big Dom. He most certainly is. Francis Green, he likes the way Brendan can chase things in a game. He certainly can do that.
We've seen that against Livingston, that the way that he changed things in a game. Yeah. He was like, Celtic are down to 10 men. I'm just going to put 2 men up front. I'm just going to make Maeda an absolute pest up front alongside Kyogo, and it worked. I thought some of Celtic's best football, apart from the game against Kilmarnock, obviously, was against Livingston when they went down to 10 men. Now, in a pitch that Celtic have really struggled with, in plastic pitches, didn't think we were going to be talking about plastic pitches today, but, here we go. Some of the best football was played in a plastic pitch, which shows that it was all mental, shows that it was more the thought of playing on it than the actual execution. Yeah. And yeah, very, very impressive performance back there a couple of months ago. Or last month.
Be a Brendan Rodgers man with a plan. He most certainly is. Big Dom back in. Celtic are so blessed to have Brendan back at the helm. And Jerry O'Rourke saying he thinks most people are with Brendan Rodgers now. I think it's fair to say that too. And I think most of the doubters have been swept away. And Danny Boy coming in, just stay here, Brendan. It's where you belong. It's your home. You can hear my dogs going a wee bit tonto in the background. And Celtic FC, God save Brendan Rodgers. Indeed, well, lots of positivity for Brendan Rodgers. A second. I don't know why there's barking and howling, but if you can hear that, I'm sorry, but there you go. I don't know what's going on, but hey, the joys of life.
It's not too loud, at least from my end.
Yeah, joys of live podcasting and having 4 dogs. Any kind of
a wee comment that I just want to bring up. Sorry,
go on, right.
Just from Jamie, I just seen that it came up there. Scott McTominay could be our next Calmac. I don't know if Celtic can really afford Scott McTominay anymore, unfortunately. He's a player that I think Celtic should have... he should have been a player of interest, I would say, a couple of years ago. A lot of people were sort of turning their nose up at Scott McTominay due to his form at Man United. But, you see if you're still getting game time for Man United down in the Premier League, you must have something about you. I know there's definitely been a lot of criticism aimed at some of their players. You look at Onana, you look at Harry Maguire. These players aren't bad players; they're just going through bad spells. The same for Scott McTominay for a time. I don't think Celtic can unfortunately afford him anymore. I think when he does move from Man United, it'll be to a fellow Premier League club. You look at your West Hams, I know they were interested. Maybe a sort of mid-table, higher-end Premier League team would come in for him. He's one of the main players in Scotland's team now, and credit to him. He's been an incredible player for Scotland since he made that jump into the team. I think it was Alex McLeish that brought him into proceedings. I think he had offers from England, but he chose Scotland. He's been an incredible servant for Scotland. I always thought there was maybe a loan deal in there for him to come to Celtic potentially, but I think that's past now. I think he'll be looking for permanent moves elsewhere now. He'll be going to elsewhere in the Premier League. But yeah, a very good player. Maybe one that Celtic missed out on. You could talk about John McGinn until the cows come home back in 2018, 2019. But yeah, good player. But I think Celtic missed the boat with that one.
I think they did. Well, that's been 45 minutes, and we'll obviously build up to the Hearts game on Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed today. I really need to go and see what's going on down there because they are going a bit tonto. Sorry, troops, about that. If it's coming through in the headphones, I appreciate your patience with that. All that remains for me to say is the morning briefing was brought to you by MPH Group, who are Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialists covering all of mainland Scotland, and every service you opt for automatically enters you into MPH's incredible holiday giveaway, and you could win a 7-night stay at the luxurious 5-star Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico. And if you look at the top of the strapline there, you'll see that MPH Group specialise in plumbing, heating, kitchens and bathrooms, and we thank them for their sponsorship of the Celtic Way morning briefing. And as we always say to you every day, please subscribe to the Celtic Way website, and it'll cost you £4 for 4 months or £18 for a year subscription. Why not take out a yearly subscription, and you'll help support top quality football journalism in the process. Something on the website for everybody, and we urge you to hit that button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Wonderful to have you back, Ryan. Glad you had a good holiday, sir. And we shall speak and count down the days till Sunday when club football returns. Well done, Scotland. Well done, Liam Scales. Here's hoping Matt O'Reilly. We say here's hoping Matt O'Reilly gets his first start and first cap for Denmark. We wish him all the best with that. We'll be back every day during the week to talk more things Celtic. And thank you for letting me speak about my good friend Chris Roberts, and spare a thought for him today, guys, if you can. And we shall return tomorrow. Take care. All the best. Thanks, Ryan. Stellar as always.
Cheers, guys.